Hopefully by now you know the drill. This is going to be our third boss guide, and from my perspective, mastering the bosses, the strategies, the mechanics of those fights is the single greatest determining factor in successful runs of Darkest Dungeon. So without further ado, let's dive into it. I've prepared an infographic that will be your takeaway from this particular video. But we're going to talk about all of the ins and outs and intricacies of the Harvest Child today. So first of all, the Harvest Child is born to a corpulent, half-eaten mother. The child is a ravenous altar of degeneracy. And truer words have never been spoken. The Harvest Child is the lair boss in the feeder, and it gets 2 actions per turn, is very slow at a speed of 1, has 120 hit points, is shockingly low in terms of its bleed and fire resist, so dots are a great option. And other than that is pretty normal, with the exception of the fact that it does actually have low move resist, so you can move around the Harvest Child if you see fit. The setup for the Harvest Child is that it comes with 2 sets of meat, a tall set of meat with a cleaver embedded in it, and a smaller set of meat that is just delightfully meaty. Those are in the upper right-hand corner of the infographic. When you start the fight, the Harvest Child will be in the back, and it is a size 2 unit, and the 2 meats, each size 1, will be in front of it. So let's talk about the moveset of the Harvest Child. The Harvest Child itself has 3 moves. Maw of Life, which is a front rank only attack that hits the front 2, deals a bleed of 3 and heavy-ish damage at 6 to 10. Then when it is either in the back rank or in the middle, sandwiched between its meat, it has 2 abilities. The first is Sapid Drippings, which is a backline blight attack that moves it forward 1, deals 2 blight damage, and does 2 to 3 damage. And then it also has Tantalizing Tidbit, which is its stress attack, which it can do on anyone in your party. It moves the Harvest Child forward 1, deals 1 stress and 2 to 4 damage. In addition to the 2 actions that the Harvest Child has, each of its meats will also take an action. The meats have an aroma, either a tempting aroma or a mouth-watering aroma, depending on which meat it is. The big meat with the cleaver in it is going to do Tempting Aroma, which is going to hit your front 2 heroes, potentially blind them, and apply the Cutlery debuff and do 1 to 2 damage. We'll talk about the Cutlery debuff in a moment. And then the Mouth-Watering Aroma is done by the smaller meat, and it hits the back 2 ranks, applying the same blind, doing the same damage, and applying the Cutlery debuff. If the Cutlery debuff is on a hero, they will move forward 1 tile. And if after moving forward 1 tile, they are in rank 1, they will be forced to feed the hunger, which is the final ability down at the bottom. When a hero feeds the hunger, they lose their turn, they lose 15% of their max HP, and they reduce their stress by 1. So let's talk about the nature of this fight, because there's a few missing pieces or moving parts that need to be thought about. The first is that this fight is very cyclical. You can see that you have Maws of Life, which is a back 2, and then both of the other actions of the Harvest Child are forward 1. So most turns, the Harvest Child is going to be moving forward 2 tiles or moving forward 1 tile and then back 2 tiles. Those are really the 2 options, unless you are shuffling around the Harvest Child. Now, this is particularly noteworthy because the Maws of Life is a much bigger and scarier attack than anything else, but we'll talk more about that in the strategy section. The next piece of this fight that is perhaps the most spooky are the meats themselves. The tempting and mouth-watering aromas are very challenging to deal with, and potentially are injecting a lot of RNG into the fight in the form of those blind tokens, and also potentially losing turns. You really don't want to be taking those on the chins, but the fact that they are potentially debuffing your max HP, they are potentially doing a small amount of damage. So the number of times I've lost heroes on Death Door to a meat doing 1 damage is non-zero. And they are potentially putting you in a situation where you are losing actions. Speaking of that, the hunger itself. This is really the thing that needs to be managed most carefully, because if you have the large meat land the hunger on both of your front units, you lack the ability to move them, you are potentially going to lose 2 turns. Or 2 hero actions in a given turn, which is it's a big deal, right? You could have your front rank hero have to eat, and then your second rank hero could end up moving forward and also having to eat. So the check for these is a debuff resist check, and it is bad news when the cutlery hunger debuff lands on your heroes. And then the last thing to talk about is the fact that, much like the librarian, this fight also has a bit of an enrage timer and also a little bit of unpredictability to it. The unpredictability is very much born out of those tokens. The blind tokens and the losing turn tokens means that you can end up in a pretty rough situation where you have struggled to kind of get to a certain point. You're taking a bunch of damage, potentially from Maws of Life, etc. And the enrage timer comes in because not only have you lost a bunch of turns, but because your heroes have been eating, their max HP is significantly reduced to the point where any attack is potentially putting them on death's door, and then the heavy dot resist dots that are coming in are making it very dangerous. As your max HP starts to wane from feeding too many times, your heals are also going to become wildly ineffective, right? If you have all heals are percentage based unless they are regens, so it can become very dangerous very quickly. So with that, I think it is time for us to delve into the strategy half of the discussion. So what I said here is that this fight is all about preventing the application of blind and hunger from the meats. The fight can very quickly get out of hand with bad RNG. It's very easy to lose half of your party's actions if you get those tokens landed. So from my perspective, taunt is basically worthless in this fight. There is very little value that you are going to be getting out of taunt. Healing has some value to it just because Maw of Life is hitting particularly hard. The stress is basically negligible for this fight from my perspective. I don't worry much about it. You don't really need a stress healer. Dot Cure has decent utility and value just because you're going to be taking some blights on the back line. You're going to be taking some bleeds on the front line. Token management is the entire key. Right? 8 out of 10, very, very important. You need to have an answer for how do I deal with the hunger tokens? How do I deal with the blind tokens? Otherwise, you're just going to die. And then I give this fight a surprisingly high lethality. I think without proper preparation and a good handle on the mechanics, this is the fight that has surprisingly ended the most runs of mine, because a handful of bad blind tokens, a handful of hungers, you can find yourself losing entire turns to the Harvest Child, and that can be absolutely disastrous. So let's talk strategy. The first thing to note is that the meat that targets the front ranks, aka the big meat, is incredibly insidious. It is the biggest, scariest element of this fight because you can lose 2 actions to it. It is really that bad. Losing half of your action economy is disastrous. So understanding that and trying to mitigate that is by far the most important. The piece of strategy or piece of advice that I will give you around that is that smoke bombs are king in this particular instance. You can blind the meat. Despite them having no eyes, you can indeed blind them. And so having a hero that has a safe buffer of speed above the 5 speed of the meat is going to be incredibly useful. Now, it's still RNG dependent, right? You're not guaranteed to block the action of the large meat, even if you blind it. But when you get that full round of turns that first time, because the meat did miss, it's a big difference maker for your fight, generally speaking. So that being said, blinds are unreliable. So the other thing that you need to be thinking about is having some juggling in your back pocket. One of the reasons that, despite not mentioning them here, but I like the Jester, I like the Highwayman, is because you can have them in rank 3, and if you end up getting a hunger token on your rank 2 hero, you can shift your rank 3 hero into rank 2 in order to have them reset on their turn. Because if the hero with hunger doesn't make it to rank 1, the hunger does go away and they don't have to eat. So a little bit of juggling can go a long way. It is very, very difficult to be able to juggle enough to get your rank 1 hero out of trouble, though. So you need to be noteworthy. Also, in the juggling vein, it's also worth noting, although I don't think I even put it here, that you can break the cycle of the Harvest Child and avoid a Maw of Life by shuffling the Harvest Child because of the low move. So useful thing to think about. And then the last kind of general observation is that flexible damage is best damage. Because the Harvest Child is constantly moving around, having something that you can do in each rank is very useful, because you simply aren't going to know where the Harvest Child is going to be. So if you have a hero like a Highwayman with point blank shot, sometimes you're going to get great value out of it, but sometimes you're not. Sometimes the Harvest Child's actions will not line up well with what you have going on. So as I mentioned before, the susceptibility to move and stun is also a big part of the Harvest Child from my perspective. You want to be stunning the Harvest Child if you can. It's terribly useful. So let's talk about the stars of this fight from my perspective. I think the Hellion and the Man-at-Arms do really well in this fight, despite the fact that they are tanks and taunt is not particularly useful. The Hellion just has a lot of flexibility. She has Iron Swan for the back rank. She has Howling End for the more front ranks. 2/3 of the time, the Harvest Child will be in a position where you can Howling End them. Because of the incredibly low burn resist, I also really like the Runaway. I think, things like Firefly, things like Dragonfly can be very useful. The Highwayman's Kit is particularly valuable because I think point blank shot coupled with pistol shot gives you enough flexibility to do what you need to do. And then I think the Occultist just pumps good damage. So, they have the ability to hit all the ranks relatively easily. You can have them in back rank using Burning Stars and Chaotic Offering. Lots of good things can come out of that. In terms of the rank breakdown, you're going to be getting a lot of Blight on your backliners, a lot of Bleed on your frontliners, and you really need to be able to deal damage everywhere. In terms of prep, I generally don't do the Harvest Child if I don't have smoke bombs. I just think it's a mistake. It is very, very difficult to get enough debuff resist to avoid both of your frontliners not getting hunger. So you just need that little bit of extra push from the blind. In that same vein, though, one good source of debuff resist is the apples and cheese food, which comes with, I think, 5% debuff resist. Healing Salve, I think, is just useful because this is a relatively high damage fight. Maw of Life is going to be taking a chunk out of your heroes, and sometimes you're going to need to heal them up. Also removing dots, so things like bandages can be a useful one for this fight. And then a couple other trinkets that come with some debuff resist, including the Cultist trinket that is specifically debuff tailored. The general ROI for the Harvest Child. I don't think either of the Harvest Child's trophies are particularly important. One of the Harvest Child's trophies increases your inventory space by 25, and the other one gives you significantly more HP at the cost of Death Blow. They're both relatively dangerous. I would not use them against bosses as a general rule of thumb, like the End of Confession bosses, so I don't love them. But this is a great place to go if you are rocking Blighters. Ironically, we didn't talk much about it up above, but the duds that I listed for this fight are the Plague Doctor and the Grave Robber, both of whom benefit greatly from Galvanizing Goblet or Kitchen Knives. So ironically, these trinkets, Curing Kappa as well, are very good for Blight-based heroes, but Blight-based heroes kind of underperform. It'll be interesting to see how those trinkets work on the Flagellant when it is released. But overall, the way I look at the Harvest Child is that it is a RNG heavy fight. There's a lot of danger in doing the Harvest Child just because when you roll badly, you roll very badly. It is potentially a very dangerous fight if the meats end up ignoring your blinds, doing a bunch of damage, landing some pesky hunger tokens. So the only real strategy for fully mitigating that is just making sure that your back ranks have a solid amount of damage. That's why I like the Occultist, right? The Occultist can be in anywhere from rank 1 to rank 3, and also even has a move forward attack in Binding Shadows that can be useful to save a rank 2 hero from taking some damage. So that's the Harvest Child. I don't love the Harvest Child. I think the rewards are kind of middling, and the danger sometimes of doing the Harvest Child can be relatively high, and smoke bombs are at a relative premium. But with all that said, I'm going to, at the end of this video, include a successful fight against the Harvest Child. But if this video was useful to you, tossing me a like is one of the greatest ways you can support me. If you want to see my future boss guides as they come out, please toss me a subscription so you'll be notified when those come out. But I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and enjoy me taking the Harvest Child to task. Bye-bye. Ooh, Severed Finger is an interesting get. Severed Fingy, Galvanizing Goblet, and Kitchen Knives. That's a good setup right there. I do not think I will be using the Bumper Crop. But let's throw down with the Harvest Child. Cross your fingers. Bad RNG can be very bad on this fight.
The harvest is here. Pity those.
Wow, that was a very fast roll there. Very annoying. Damn, that was actually brutal. I hate that. Ooh, the resist there too is rough. I'm going to set him back, hopefully. All right, did not succeed, but we got you off the front line. But yeah, this thing has a low speed and still managed to outspeed our level 8s here, which was really frustrating. Like, you have a 5 speed, and both of our level 8s got taken down. We should probably increase our torch also.
A breakthrough.
The blinds stink as well.
Welcome relief from caustic agony.
Good hit. And lands the blight. That's huge. We can't really protect our highwaymen, so we're just gonna take them all of life here. Hey, Art, how's it going? Having a bit of a juggle comp makes this a little more straightforward. Oh, I love that. I think I will up our torchlight just a little bit here. Man, we haven't landed any blights there. blind failing there is a bummer. I think we just keep going for the burn down. We're not quite at the point where we need to start healing, I think. Maws of Life here again is going to be annoying, but no crits feels good. And then we're out. Okay. We survived.
An impressive haul. Put it to good use.
I mean, Corrupting Cleaver and Kitchen Knife seems like kind of the optimal item for them. Don't mind the 25 in slot, the items. Let's hope we don't just die to the Harvest Child. Always embarrassing.
The harvest is here. Pity those with a place at the table.
That is going to be a problem.
The fiend's strength dwindles.
I didn't want to move this guy in like that. Geez, there's not a lot to do here, is there? It's going to be interesting.
Agony by accumulation.
We could have gotten the point blank shot, unfortunate.
Weaken them, that another may finish the work.
Don't love what we got going on there. No snacks allowed. Yeah, ideally no. Very annoying. This fight, it has a tendency for the RNG to go in awkward directions. Let's see. I was gonna say I hate to waste it, but the blinds are always a little spicy. Okay, so if you have both your actions left, so you're gonna go to here and to here. So point blank would be bad here. So we just go for the big crush. Very nice. So many blinds for you. How cool would it be if these were corpses and you could just blow them up with corpse destroying abilities? That would be cool. We have a pretty durable team, so... You're going to do 2 actions. But our strategic withdrawal... Yeah, it's not worth the... We could have gotten the point blank there.
Compassion quiets the howling mind.
Unsure if that is the play. That hunger is really bad. Bad timing for that to come out. Yep, this is gonna be a rocky one. 22 to go. Always unfortunate. Yeah, that seems to be consistently firing off badness. God, the blinds back here are brutal. Oh my. Okay, I didn't realize that was going to be like that. Let's get you off the front line.
Solidarity may yet
Spicy, to say the least. This is not great, for the record. I'm working on it in Quiz, but the problem that we're running into is I can't. The blinds have stacked up so incredibly high.
This road cannot be walked alone.
I want it to move forward one, so I don't want to knock it back. We could just go for Retribution. I want the point blank shot here to put it on Death's Door. It's going to be super overkill, but...
So proud, unsteady stances.
Where was that earlier, huh? That's the question. This fight is always a little spooky. God, we're gonna have to take 2 more hits here. This is gonna be a little dicey potentially. Luckily we don't have a maw to deal with, but okay, can you please just die? Thank you. The Harvest Child is always so stressful. That is my my 2 cents.
Let it die.